This podcast is a member of the Voices of Wrestling Podcasting Network. Visit voicesofwrestling.com to hear the rest of our great podcasts, as well as show reviews, columns, opinions, and updates across the world of wrestling.
Ho, 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 boys and girls. Have you all been good this year? It is I, Santa Nove, bringing you season's greetings. Jeff, have you been good this year?
I don't know, does flooding my downstairs neighbor count me on the naughty list?
That does not sound like a very good thing that you
Hold
did,
on,
Jeffrey.
I did do it on purpose, Santa Nove. It just happens that a pipe in the back of my bathtub happened to overflow and flood my downstairs neighbor. Give to our Patreon, patreon.com/ropes. That might put me on the naughty list, begging for money. But no, I'm...
Begging for money after flooding your neighbor definitely puts you on Santa Nove's naughty list.
Yes, if I...
A lump of coal for you. You'll have to watch 10 hours of wrestling a week.
No, wait, I already do that. Oh, my goodness. Yeah, that'll put me on the naughty list, but if I had made a GoFundMe and gone to my friends and given a sob story, it'd put me on the nice list.
I like that it's a GoFundMe, like you're the victim, but the victim's clearly downstairs.
Yeah, exactly.
Here. Like this would be a peak level GoFundMe, very 2020.
Well, that's what people do. I mean, it's like I got to expense.
It's true, yeah. I caused a car accident. Please help me pay for
it's
it.
like, help me pay for this car accident. It's like, was it your fault? They never put that in there. They just say I had a car accident.
Did I ever tell you, since this is like the AMA, did I ever tell you the story about the girl I dated? We dated for about 2 months and didn't work out or whatever, but she was staying at my place for the last month and I was still working at the captioning company. She brought over a ton of stuff to my house, and like when
was
we
one of it a
up,
dude?
What?
Was one of the things she brought over another dude? Because that would just be peak.
No, you're merging different relationships.
Oh, I didn't even know about that one. Okay, go ahead.
No. This one, she was just kind of, just not all there. Not all there. Would be the way I would generously describe her. So I pack up all of her stuff, and when we break up, she gets real emotional. She's like, I don't even want to take any of my stuff. You can just throw it all away. And I'm like, no, we're not just going to throw away all your stuff. That's ridiculous. You're very mad right now. How about you calm down, and whenever you want to come and get your stuff, I will have all of your stuff set aside and ready for you to load in, and we'll load it in part of the ways. And she storms off. Later that night, a mutual friend of mine goes, hey, what did you do to X? And I was like, I don't know what you're talking about. And he links me to her GoFundMe, where she has made this big GoFundMe about how I have destroyed all of her stuff, that I got mad at her and maniacally was like, you don't get to keep anything. I mean, dude, like the language in there, it painted me like a madman. And all of a sudden I'm like, whoa, this is crazy. Oh, by the way, I discovered this while captioning a news out in California. Like, I'm on the air and I'm like reading Facebook as I was wont to do while I was captioning stuff I was not particularly interested in, or like reading news or whatever else. And I see this and I'm like, whoa, oh my God. Meanwhile, I'm like spurting out weather for Los Angeles or whatever. So I decided, okay, well, there's a real easy way to make all this story seem completely illegitimate. And I just start taking photos of all of her stuff and just like post in the comments on the GoFundMe, hey, here's some photos of all of your stuff. It's all completely intact. I'm not sure what you're talking about here, but I've got it all ready for you to pick up whenever you want. She ends up deleting the GoFundMe. like it pops the balloon. She ends up deleting the whole thing. And then eventually I contact the mutual friend, and he ends up getting the stuff. He's just like, oh my God, dude. And I was like, look, I'm never going to see you again because you were like her friend, not my friend so much here, but like, here's all of her stuff. Just will you please get it to her? And he did. And then he texted me after he did, and like, yeah, it all got resolved. But yeah, dude, people do crazy things with GoFundMes.
Oh my goodness. It's like, yeah, you kind of, I'll only kind of tie it in because I haven't had anything like that relationship wise, but it's like when I woke up, was it 2 weeks ago or last week with all these things, all these racist things I had supposedly said. I'm like, no, I never said that. It's, here's what I say right here. You're just kind of watching that GoFundMe go, I have her stuff in boxes right here. What is she talking about? Where'd she get that photo of the burning teddy bear? Where did she?
I mean, like the language, it was vivid descriptions of things that absolutely did not happen. Like me, throwing the stuff into the dumpster and laughing at her and telling her she can't keep anything. And I'm just like, what the hell is going on here? It was a very surreal experience.
It's called poetic license, Chris. I'm an artist.
No, it was vivid. It was really, really. That was part of her problem. Her imagination would paint interesting constructions of reality that weren't real.
I'm a storyteller, Chris. How dare you crap on my art?
Really exploring the space.
Oh, speaking of storytelling, NXT 795,000, AEW 683,000.
Yeah, but how they do in the demo?
Oh my goodness! Everybody's talking about it must be the young people watching the impeachment hearings, and I go, I don't know
what,
or the impeachment vote, and I laugh
the hearings are during the day. If you were going to watch that,
was it the vote in the evening? The actual vote.
Yeah, but I mean, come on,
you're the Politico here, so I'll
I'm the Politico who also watches wrestling, so I hadn't heard this argument, but no, that's a nutso argument.
That was I believe Dave was given that as a reason for all the numbers being down. I just think it's because it's the holidays.
Okay.
But I will do.
Yeah, I think that's part of it, but I also think that it's in part a reflection of AEW's unsteady product and slightly draggy show.
Yeah, I'll get into this in a moment real quick, but I think the best point was made that really kind of gave me a step back was former host of this show, Rob McCarran. He goes, not enough is being said that on their debut, they had 1.6 million people interested in this show.
Right.
And it has now fallen to under half of that weekly. That's a problem. I don't care who's winning the demos.
What I've been talking about with the Raw numbers, though. You know what I mean?
Yeah. They're winning the 18 to 49. They're winning the 18 to 49 crowd against NXT, which is treated like a stepchild in WWE canon. Congratulations, guys. It's. I don't know if it's the Dark Order thing altogether. I'm not going to say it is, because there's a place in those types of stables have existed in wrestling since as long as I've been wrestling. The problem is they've never been main event for more than one cycle. Going back to kind of your area of the country, Devastation Incorporated was never the main heels in World Class, except for maybe one feud against the Von Erichs, and then they'd go back to the Freebirds or Chris Adams or whoever. It would just be, kind of a bridge feud to get to more main event type things. I just think I don't understand where this concept of we have to tell stories. It's just, for me, it's more the instincts that we have to be cinematic here and we have to have character development plotted through this, that, and the other. When, of all people, our boy Lanza from the flagship, it's like, look, two people who hate each other build a feud. That's what wrestling is. It's not these... He's not this soap opera, Days of Our Lives circa 2000 or whatever, when they had deep demonic possession stories in soap operas and things like that. It's not a difficult thing, and I just think there's way too much about AEW right now, other than the crowd. that just
the crowd is great. The crowd makes all the difference in the world. I was thinking about that as I was watching SmackDown, where like some of those segments, which were actually, kind of decent, like just Dana Brooke and Bayley's little match. I thought Dana Brooke is showing serious improvement, but that crowd was absolutely flat. And I was thinking about that AEW crowd that is usually very charitable. But I mean, the other part, dude, is just so many heel factions. You have Jericho's inner circle, and I think in order for the Dark Order to really kind of make sense, in my opinion, I think they have to be kind of teasing around in the main event scene. The whole thing should be to take over everything, but I thought they jumped the story. I mean, you did anticipate at some point Evil Uno and all of these, dudes that he is assembling, these like loser dudes he's assembling and putting under mass. I think it made some sense that, at some point there was going to be this big invasion thing, but I assumed that was going to happen when Jericho in the inner circle was a little bit more out of the way.
See, I assumed it was going to be one of those things like, this is going to be like the NWA equivalent of Jimmy Valiant versus Paul Jones's Army. You can have the Dark Order feud for years with guys on the mid-card. If this was Joey Janela getting attacked by the Dark Order, that would be something. But to have them on the main event level when you have the inner circle, and the inner circle is out there, I liked the story of Jungle Boy and the 10 minutes and then the extra 5. I did. It's one of the most classic tropes in professional wrestling.
What did you think about the finish of that?
Remind me.
So Jericho demands the extra 5.
Yes.
They wrestle a little bit more. He walks away.
I liked
after.
It. I'm fine with that.
I thought that
guy
didn't make a ton of sense.
Oh,
and
okay.
I thought that Jungle Boy should have chased after him. Jungle Boy just left in the ring, kind of standing there as Jericho's standing up with Shivani. And then I think Jericho's ham tendencies get in the way of a lot of the storytelling.
Yeah, I agree with that somewhat. I don't mind the champ, because that's what champs do, is they go, okay, you know what? You can't beat me, and I know it, so I'm just going to leave, kind of thing. I thought that was fine. I thought that was actually quite good, to be honest with you. It was
abrupt. It was off of a crucifix. Jake's standing, and the reason Jericho demanded a continuation of the match, theoretically, is because he had Jake so broken down, and at the 10-minute mark, he's selling like he's half dead.
Yeah, but then they get the extra 5, and he realizes he can't beat him, so rather than face humiliation, he quits, and I'm fine with that. I'm good with that, actually, because it continues the story. He doesn't have to beat him. There doesn't have to be a resolution here. It's setting something up for later, I think.
Yeah, and then I guess when he's up there, once he says Schiavone, he just, okay, that's funny. Yeah, I get it, but it completely takes away from the friggin' story you were just telling in the ring.
It makes him flaky heel versus Le Champion heel, which is
right.
I think what we want.
And the whole, this is a big mountain for Jake Perry to climb. It gets undermined by the fact that Jericho's hamming.
Yeah, he kind of kills the goodwill by doing comedy after that. As opposed to,
and it recenters on him too much.
He should be angry. He should be angry and throwing a temper tantrum.
The scene ends focused on him and not Jake.
Yeah. Oh no, that's actually the best point of this, is that it draws focus from the guy you're trying to build to the personality you're not. So yeah, no, I that part. Yeah, I now have to backtrack how much I liked it, to be honest with you, because that makes me do a kind of a double take on the whole thing.
Yeah, I just, there was a way to do this. I get the classic old school booking style of it, but I think that there were some things missed in this. Chris Statlander is doing an Ultimate Warrior gimmick.
What? Okay.
Load the spaceship with the rocket fuel, Jeff.
Here is where I got into it a bit with a guy who, it wasn't heated, but we were having conversations about this. If you want me to take this just feeds into some of, I think, Kenny Omega's worst instincts about booking, is that I think people want these women to be, for lack of a better term, I think the socio-political angle of women as athletes and being really good versus the entertaining stuff is going to, I've said it's going to be a clash for a while because you're using Joshi wrestlers, but it was kind of compared to the Luchasaurus thing where do we believe Luchasaurus is really a dinosaur? Probably not. But Chris Statlander is actually an alien in this whole thing. You know, it's too campy.
It's weird.
It's camp.
It's campy, and you could even hear commentary trying to make good intentioned jokes and just being careful about how they're wording it because it's so weird. It leads to weird sentence constructions, and. Yeah, I just this does nothing for me, and
like
camp is the right word for it.
doing the cartwheels and the boop on the nose. It's fine once, at the beginning of the match. It's kind of like the Orange Cassidy soft kicks where everybody's like, "Oh my God, they're killing him!" The audience is in on it, fine. But after you get that done with, let's get to the meat of the situation. I just. It's one of those things where they're sending mixed messages. It really is to me. I think I don't know why you're pushing Statlander right now rather than just building her when you had already established a number one contender like a previous week. With it's everything's confusing. Is there an injury somewhere in there that I don't know about? That's what I'm kind of asking myself right now. And then
it's tonally confusing.
And then to have Statlander involved with the Brandy Rhodes stuff as well, it's like it just continues to further undermine it. It's
monsters versus aliens, Jeff.
Oh, jeez. Oh,
everybody loves monsters versus aliens.
I don't. I mean, I don't mind characters. I don't mind characters and other things like that. It's just... It's just you're setting mixed meta because you were originally building as, especially on All In. If you go back to AEW's history all the way back to All In when you had Tessa able to work a show and you had Britt Baker and Kylie Ray and Nyla, even Nyla Rose was at least presented seriously at the time before the Beast character really kind of got up and running. You're talking about this is the future of women's wrestling. They're athletes. They're this, that, the other. And then you get into, you start to toe the line a bit with Riho and Emi Sakura and, the Joshi influence where they're a little bit more character-y. And now we've gone to full sports entertainment light type stuff.
It's very jarring compared to NXT's presentation of the women.
Yes.
Yeah, Shayna Baszler is the no-nonsense athlete that I want.
Yeah, we can talk about that. I think I'm kind of done with AEW.
Oh, I wanted to talk about Spears and Tully. This was like the first time where I didn't feel like they had great on-camera chemistry. Like they're stepping all over each other's lines.
They're doing those live, I think. I don't think they're cutting those backstage before the show or anything. I think they're going live with that, and that's a mistake. You have all day to cut these and then cut them into the... There's a lot of production issues here because I remember I watched they tweeted out the Sammy Guevara joke about the picture-in-picture.
Yes, that was funny. I saw that.
That eventually went, but the thing was when Sammy is they have overcut Christmas music with Sammy Guevara doing all the slides that they were supposed to show during that time. The problem was they left the mic on, or they had a boom mic there. So you hear Sammy switching all the poster boards and stuff when it wasn't needed at all. You can shut off the mic and overdub the music. It's just those little things. Here, you can have Tully, because they did this also last week as well when he's in the tunnel and he doesn't come out with Spears and Kip Sabian when they're a tag team. And they're just cutting them on the fly, like, okay, you have 30 seconds, go right now. And when they could take care and do more product, I'm trying to think, quality control. That's the term I'm trying to find there. Quality control of these interviews and promos, as opposed to we have to do them live right now on the show as we go. Yeah, Tully didn't come off very well here, I thought, because he's saying things to me he doesn't believe.
The stories about him and Arn, where he was just trying to like fabricate, like, you remember me and Arn, we'd just look at each other and we'd know, man, we'd know. So, real quickly, before we move on from AEW, I do want to talk about the mechanics of the Dark Order beatdown, because I think that it could have been okay. It would never have been good. It was a bit silly, but why was it silly when, if it had just been the Bucks and SCU getting jumped by the horde of guys, I don't actually think that would have been that bad, especially when you have the tag team guys coming in and they're the ones getting initiated by, them and the Dark Order jumping 4 people. That makes some sense. Where things fell apart was someone was like, nah, but old school booking says that baby faces come out to save other baby faces. Okay, right. And you and I might in a parallel universe have said that on this podcast. But the issue is, so now they tried to block out what that looks like, and they just had one after another. Cody comes down by himself. Dustin comes down by himself. Chris Daniels comes down by himself. And they get beaten up, and commentary's trying to put over this idea that there's more and more of these Dark Order guys coming out. And if there had been, if they had like 50 extras, and it was just like a swarm of dudes that Evil Uno has assembled, and Evil Uno cuts through them, the visual of that would have actually been pretty cool. The problem was the maximum amount of Dark Order guys that were going to show up, the bulk of them showed up right away. If there were some more who dribbled in later on, it was like 4, 5, or 6 more, when really it should have been just like waves, just completely overtaking them. How do you... None of those, all the Green Mask guys or whatever, none of them are wrestlers, but how do you possibly contend with Evil Uno, this tag team he is now restructured, and a swarm of dudes?
Yeah, the Beaver Boys and the Dark Order and the Geeks against your top baby faces, supposedly, in the Young Bucks, Kenny Omega, Cody. You're just like, no, we want to see them against the Inner Circle. I think to me, it's more of, man, what would have happened if the Barbarian, the Warlord, T.J. Khan, and Baron Von Raschke had taken out Dusty, Magnum, and the Road Warriors? You're like, no, we want to see them against the Horsemen. We don't want to see them against.
Hey, what if the Dungeon of Doom actually took over WCW in 1995?
Yeah, if they had actually beaten Hogan.
Yeah, right. And then had like a real run on the top from 95 to 96.
There are guys you can go, yeah, I can see them defeating the good guys, but the good guys will get theirs. And there are guys where you go, how in the hell did these geeks beat up the best guys in the world? Type of thing. I think that's the disconnect.
Well, you still had stupid babyface syndrome. It was a different type of stupid babyface syndrome. It wasn't the, why are we just standing in the back, not doing anything to help our friends? It was, why are you guys running out into a 1-on-20 situation, assuming that you're going to be able to affect a change in this mix?
There's valiant sacrifice and there's stupid sacrifice. It's the jack.
Or you show up with an equalizer. So you have Chris Daniels show up and he's got a steel chair and he's swinging and he's taking out a bunch of these guys, and then he gets overwhelmed. And then you have Cody and Dustin. They show up with baseball bats. Similar story, but they get closer to kind of changing up the numbers. So there's a way to make it seem more noble, and those guys are aware of the odds differential and are trying to do something to even up the odds, short of having more people behind them.
I was thinking Jack Black and Mars Attacks when he does have that might be too old a reference. So they just should have had one of the babyfaces scream Leroy Jenkins as he just ran down to get his ass beat. That would have been much better, I think. Yeah, there's noble sacrifice, and then there's stupid sacrifice due to lack of planning. This was the latter. On the other side of the coin, I loved this. NXT was almost as good as a TakeOver. There were some there were some spotty things in it that you can nitpick, but overall, I thought this was a strong show to end the year.
Yeah, no, this is great. I hope NXT makes this kind of a thing every year where the last show of the year ends up being sub-takeover level, but substantial. I think that at the end of the night, you get a big title change, the end of Shayna Baszler's reign. So, that's a big headline. And then the rest of the show, very, very watchable. The Cameron Grimes and Kushida stuff, just to start on the weakest point here.
Yeah.
I don't think this is helping the characterization of Cameron Grimes. I don't he got his hat back. Okay.
But that's WWE to a T, though. I mean, we had a feud about a ham on SmackDown.
Yeah, well, that's main roster. I want my NXT to be. I want my NXT to be a little less insulting to my intelligence, Jeff. And a lot of times, I'm satisfied.
Okay, no, that's fine. You know what? The one nitpicky thing to me, I didn't like the reintroduction of Gargano. I really didn't. I thought, I get what they're trying to make that dramatic moment where Finn's like, oh my God, he's here. And then Gargano comes down, beats him with a chair, and you're supposed to... The crowd did not play its part, I don't think, in this one.
I think the crowd was confused because the crowd kind of likes Finn Balor. Finn Balor is sort of the de facto heel in a match against Adam Cole, but out comes Johnny Wrestling, who's the most... over baby face.
No, he's the baby face in the match against Cole. He's the one that got hit in the junk. He's the baby face there.
Right.
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying.
Heel,
no,
sorry.
I'm saying who? I'm talking in the match against Balor, yes, but I'm talking about in the match against Cole. Balor is the de facto baby face.
Yeah, no, you said he was the heel. That's why I was...
No, he's...
Listen to the tape! Listen to the tape, Chris. You said he was... Yeah, okay. No, I understand your point. It's just you worded it... You mix up the
that never happens. That doesn't happen to me. And, what I hate is right now you're just lying. And it's one of the last shows we're going to do this year, and you're just lying. You're just...
Okay, just go on with your point. Just go on with your point.
I'm going to go on with my point now. I'm not going to look... I'm not going to carry this with me, is what I'm trying to say. So... my point is, you have this emotional reset that's supposed to occur. I think that's what the writing was suggesting, where it's okay, remember, Balor's kind of a tweener guy. He's a gray guy. And so, yeah, he was the de facto baby face in the match against Cole. But in the feud against Gargano, he's the heel. And Gargano's out there with a chair, and he's attacking a guy after he's just had a grueling match where he was the de facto baby face. And I think the effect that it had for the crowd was wait, is Johnny a heel now? Because this is pretty shady. You're supposed to be thinking back to when Balor was ultra aggressive on Johnny Gargano and tried to put him on the shelf, blah, blah, blah. But it was a weird blocking choice and a weird time to reintroduce Johnny.
They wanted to stage it so that Johnny, being a badass, coming in and being, alpha male Johnny, getting his revenge on the guy who put him out for weeks. And he's so mad that he's going to put a hurting on Finn. And they were expecting this crowd to pop huge for that chair shot. And they didn't. They just kind of went, okay. And kind of went with it. It wasn't the emotional release that they thought they were going to get. You could tell they were kind of...
No, they thought that was going to be comeuppance. I think maybe they even thought it was kind of restarting the feud, but even sort of a payback moment that the crowd was really supposed to be satisfied by.
No, I agree. I think they misjudged very, very harshly. I mean, I'm glad to see Gargano back. I'm looking forward to this feud. But yeah, you can't. And it's a problem because it's also Gargano who also went over the edge against Ciampa when he lost everything. So it looks like they might be kind of retelling that story a little bit.
I mean, I like the unhinged Johnny, but this just doesn't feel the right... This is not the right time to do this.
Yeah.
Is my
point. You've redeemed him. Don't make him unhinged again.
Yeah, I think they missed the opportunity to turn him heel in an interesting way. Yeah. Was it last year?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree. I don't think it makes any sense to be retrying that.
Actually, it was earlier this year. That's how long this year has been, I think.
Wow. They drag on these years. So next we had Damian Priest versus Killian Dane. This is a good match. Something leaves me cold about both of these guys.
Because you don't know, to me, I'll tell you what leaves me cold. You don't know anything except for the commentary, buzzword phrasing about either of these guys' motivations or anything. They never cut promos on NXT. I loved the introduction of Damian Priest, that video. And all we've gotten ever since is he's the Archer of Infamy. He's looking to write his name in the sky of immortality with his archery skills. I mean, who is this guy? And why are we watching him? And why is he interesting? And what are his motivations? And what does he want out of these things? It's just, okay, these are guys wrestling a match because they're big. And I'm like, I'm cool with that. Little upset with the NXT Full Sail crowd for having the temerity to tell a man who can't help that he has back hair to shave his back. As a man who struggles with that, it's a painful process that I don't particularly enjoy. But yeah, you don't. And Killian Dane, after the initial, I've been watching violence from my hometown, and I'm, all those vignettes. Nothing after that either. So I mean, you can have character progression. It's just, I want to see it in the form of promos. I want to see these guys get over. I want to see these guys become personalities that I can get invested in rather than just, here's his hook. Here's the character hook. And we're going to send him out there to wrestle. And you're supposed to
I want to be slightly into the idea of Killian Dane potentially becoming NXT champion. Because if you're going to put him in the mix with title contenders, he has to at least be kind of presented as a credible or even potentially interesting champion.
Yeah, he can't just be the big guy who moves well. And that's all.
Right. No, and they've been living on that for as long as I think is humanly possible, even too long. And I think it's time to, do more interesting things with Dane if you're going to keep him as the upper mid-card gatekeeper type of guy. Io Shirai versus Santana Garrett. This was cool. Interesting, slight change of characterization for Io Shirai. I feel like we're almost getting back to her kind of being a babyface.
Crowd is trying to turn her babyface.
Yeah.
Except for the one jerk who yelled, "Go back to China."
Well, that guy
Io Shirai shut her down quick, thank God. Did
he get dragged out of the NXT arena?
I don't know, but he probably should have been thoroughly sussed at least. I mean, when she shut him down and then went into her splits because she's awesome. I was very happy about that. I'm just like, dude, that's what I want more of. I want wrestlers also, when people yell stupid things, I want wrestlers to interact with those stupid people. I really do. I think it's fun. I think it's fun to watch. It's like watching the comedian shut down the heckler. That's what I want. And dude, if you're gonna, I'll give benefit of the doubt that maybe dude was drunk or high or doing something before pre-gaming, whatever, and said something stupid. I'll forgive you once. Don't ever do it again. But don't yell that crap if you can't help yourself.
Well, I also think that person should be escorted out so that they can't attention seek. Like, what you don't want to do at these shows is set a tone where you can yell something like that, and the wrestler shuts you down, you almost kind of get off because you're getting attention. Like, after that, you should be escorted out so that everyone else in the room sees, okay, the rules are you can't do that. Like, I agree with you. I actually think it would be good to have the wrestlers shutting that down more to get themselves over, but then I do think you actually have to get those people out. Yeah,
you need some crowd control in the arena as well. I would agree. Because I had a situation like that at an indie show. Actually, it's PWG. And this guy was yelling stuff. There's this dude who used to come in a lucha mask and a muumuu. And I remember Chris Hero wasn't taking any of his crap, or it was Super Dragon who wasn't going to take any of his. I can't remember what. He never touched the guy, but that guy should have gotten thrown out, I think, too, because he was just yelling crap all night.
Pete Dunne and Travis Banks. Travis Banks had a really fun match here with Pete Dunne.
He's a good wrestler. There's nothing wrong with Travis Banks. Other than he has the personality of a buzzsaw, and that's the issue. It's weird to me because you kind of Last week, you got him a fluke win over Jackson Riker. This week, you have Pete Dunne struggling against him. Who gets over here?
Yeah, I think Travis Banks is the one who got over here just because consider where he is on NXT UK and to the average WWE viewer who's unfamiliar with any of his work outside of the company.
Yeah, he's a guy who's mid-card.
He's a guy.
He's
a guy.
He's struggling
the fact
with
that
Ligero.
He had a competitive match with Pete Dunne makes him feel like more than just a guy. He was a guy who had a competitive... Like, I think that this did help him. You can't do this a lot, and part of the reason this helped him is because he's so low in the card. But I do think this was helpful to him.
I disagree in some ways because it helps him in the bubble. It helps him in a vacuum. But if you don't follow up on this, if next week he doesn't cut a promo and then get a strong win against somebody, then it becomes like, hey, remember when he had that strong match against Pete Dunne? And it's usually set in the middle of a match between him and like Joseph Connors or something.
Like when they brought up with Dana Brooke's match against Bayley, how Dana Brooke was the one who answered the challenge to Ronda Rousey and got annihilated, and that was supposed to make her look strong.
Yeah, you're just like, oh, that's been Dana Brooke's character this entire time. She answered the call against Asuka in NXT and got destroyed too. She just likes answering calls. That's her character.
And those were all under the I've been ignored, so this is going to give me a chance. So let's do it. Anyone with two hands can fight. So then we get to our main event here with Rhea Ripley and Shayna Baszler, and I really liked this. I liked it particularly once Rhea Ripley got out of the Terrafuda clutch. They did such a great job during the entirety of Shayna Baszler's title reign, protecting the Terrafuda clutch, making it really mean something if you could get to a rope somehow to break the hold, and making it really mean something when Rhea Ripley finally broke the Terrafuda clutch. And the audience understood the substance and the weight of the moment when Rhea Ripley did that, and they had a really, really great match. I loved the riptide from the second rope. I was reading that Cesaro helped her work out how to do that from the ropes.
I was going to bring that up. Damn you. I liked it other than the ref bump. I really did. I'm prone now to give a groan when the ref bumps because I've just seen so much of it, and they don't save it for special times like this where it would be really effective. You know, all the interference and all the other stuff, they do it week after week after week. So it kind of got a groan at me, but I liked the match overall. I thought the celebration in the ring afterwards was a little much, to be honest with you. Although it did bring out Rook Bugenhagen, who I thought had left the company. So that's a good thing. And, you know, Rhea Ripley does not scream to me fans and locker room coming out to celebrate with the mosh pit kid.
Yeah, it's weird to recast her as the locker room leader. And I was left still thinking about her as, how is this babyface Rhea Ripley thing going to work?
You didn't make the cut to Dakota Kai. Just that promo alone makes me go, God, you're kind of a jerk on the whole thing. You can certainly look at the narrative arc of the Dakota Kai thing and say Dakota Kai has a legitimate reason to hate Rhea Ripley. Rhea Ripley broke up a tag team for her own sense of what's the cut. And you could even argue it's a faulty assessment of, obviously two people who are in a tag team have a multiplier effect when working together that they wouldn't have working in isolation. Although I will say, I think this helps Dakota Kai's heel character now, because Dakota Kai was for lack of a better term, she was the Dana Brooke of the NXT locker room going up against Shayna all the time. Oh, I'm going to challenge her. I'll be the locker room leader. And she would just get beat every time. I think that'd be kind of cool to kind of fold that in to a feud with Rhea Ripley. I think that'd be neat. It was just one of those things where as they go off the air, you have fans and wrestlers celebrate with Rhea Ripley. And I'm like, it just didn't ring true for me. That's what happened.
No, I think we're waiting for the Rhea heel turn already.
Yeah.
Like,
I'm gonna keep this belt. I've been poisoned by success and the money and whatever, and now I'm gonna do what I can to keep it.
Well, there's not really a babyface story for her wanting the belt to begin with. She just wanted to beat Shayna Baszler, but like it wasn't like I'm doing this to help my friend X.
I know it's different opponents. I know it's different times. I'm gonna give you 3 names. Who do you think did more for the NXT Women's Championship? I'll give you Bayley, I'll give you Asuka, and I'll give you Shayna Baszler. Yeah, I was trying to think about that. I go, who is
great champions?
They all did a lot for that division.
I am going to say Asuka, and here's why. Shayna Baszler, amazing heel champion run. We never got her. I actually think you should have turned her face before taking the title off of her. The next baddie coming and taking the title off of the old baddie. I like that kind of story.
The gunfighter motif.
Yes,
I'm the baddest gunfighter in town until someone worse comes in, and then I kind of go, well, I kind of like this town now.
I wish, right. I wish Rhea had come in as like the uber bad heel to like clobber down Shayna Baszler and making fun of how and Annihilate's fighting playing the first week, and Shayna's having to just fight from under against Rhea Ripley and just gets overtaken. I would have liked us to have been in the final match cheering for Shayna Baszler to get the Terrafuda clutch on Rhea Ripley. And then Rhea Ripley shatters it. And you're like, oh God, how bad is this woman? She's going to be so dominant if Shayna Baszler was this dominant. I think it would have been a much more interesting tone setting. But Shayna, great heel. Bayley, great babyface. But Asuka's the only person who was able to work both heel and babyface during her title reign.
Yeah, I'll be interested to see if they build up some of these people that they've been kind of keeping off TV into threats for Rhea Ripley. Someone like Deonna Purrazzo, who I thought had a pretty good showing against Asuka on
I think
Raw.
They should do a faction against Rhea Ripley. I mean, if you're gonna, it seems to me, if you're going to have Rhea Ripley as a babyface, you have to Hogan her up a little bit. She has to be going up against the Four Horsemen and the Dungeon of Doom and like having to deal with numbers and trying to find friends, and friends stab her in the back a little bit. That's how you're going to have to book this babyface character.
We're going to have to build up Team Kick, is what you're telling me. Maybe Tamina can come down there and challenge. Yeah, I'd like to see them find a monster heel for Rhea Ripley. I really would. I mean, I get having great matches, and I want Rhea Ripley to have great matches against technicians. I mean, God help us if WWE ever signed Tessa Blanchard. I'd love to see that, but we're really kind of have a bit of a hole in terms of monster heels on the women's side, with both Nia and Tamina not really being used and rehabbing or out for whatever reasons. I'd like to. Is there a female wrestler out there?
Yeah, Nia and Tamina feel like real afterthoughts. Jazzy
Reyna Gonzalez.
Reyna Gonzalez, I think
the
Bianca
Stan Hansen
Belair.
Wannabe. Yeah.
Yeah, no, actually, I mean, this is sort of the faction
Bianca
that
would
needs
be
to get
good
built.
too.
Yeah,
Bianca, you're exactly right.
Reyna, Jazzy Gabbard, like they need to be a faction against Rhea Ripley. You need to have big people coming in there, and like they're all stout themselves, but they also have this numbers advantage thing, and that's how you're going to build up Rhea as the credible big Hulk Hogan style champion.
Actually, you have them be the three muscles, and you have someone like Dakota as the head, as the voice.
You have Dakota in there, and then maybe even Ginny. You know what I mean? Like
Ginny,
yeah. But Dakota has like the small little scrappy one who is she's really crazy.
The mouth of the crew.
Yeah.
Let's do a couple of quick things on SmackDown and NXT UK, and then we'll get to our questions. We only had about 5 questions, so that'll be a good ending. Sasha Banks versus Children is my favorite feud ever. I loved the interplay with Lacey Evans' daughter. I was kind of hoping Aunt Pam would tell her that Santa wasn't real, because I do like this. I figured out a way to fix this Aunt Pam Sasha situation because they're great together, but separately they're kind of missing something. They have to go full in on the I'm a role model thing with Bayley, and they're
yes.
not.
No, absolutely. She needs to give like speeches. Yeah, there has to be a lot more. She needs to be coming out and still trying to hug people occasionally. Like they recoil back, have some plants in there. You know, people like they recoil from her, but yeah, no, really disingenuous. She has
disingenuous role model stuff.
Really disingenuous about the role model stuff.
You know, go out on playgrounds and heckle children. That's what I want.
Man, some of those vignettes would be great. Like, don't you want to grow up to be like me? Look up to me. You know, I was able to chase my dreams, and that's why you should look up to me.
Oh, you want to be a princess? Those aren't real. Oh, you got a C? You would have got an A if you cheated. Like me.
There's a slight Bayley twinge that still needs to be there.
The good part is still in there, but she's giving horrible advice to get there.
Now, all the messaging is now really negative.
Yes. It's like you could still be a good person, but you have to be really bad to get there. Yeah, no, I get your feel on this. Sasha and Lacey's kid is not Sasha Izzy in terms of heat, which still one of my favorite moments in professional wrestling.
No, the kid was corpsing a little bit. Like the kid.
The kid knew, but the kid was also awesome. The daughter was awesome with the growling face and trying to swipe at Sasha. I thought that was awesome. And Lacey's getting better as a babyface, I think, too. I think that's a nice
You
nice
like
touch.
the Lacey Evans as a babyface thing?
I do. I think she needs to change her gear. I think she needs to change her gear.
There's something weird. Like Bayley
the promo
and Sasha are not dominant enough to justify
but they're Weasley. They're Weasley heels.
They're Weasley heels. So theoretically, Lacey Evans paired with Dana Brooke should be overkill. Right.
Kill them. Yeah.
And there needs to be some way that Sasha and Bayley get the upper hand on them.
Yeah. Definitely. There should be Road Warriors versus Arn and Tully type of dominance by the Road Warriors. And then the two weasels figure out a way to get out of there. But no, I mean, I'm not all in on Lacey yet as a babyface, but I mean, I've been propping her up since she debuted that she should be a babyface. So it's one of those things. I think she needs to change the pinup girl look a little bit to be more Liberty Bell from Glow. But that's me. I mean, that's just an opinion.
No, I guess it could work. I think that they needed to ease into her as top babyface a lot.
Oh, she's not top babyface yet, I don't think.
No, but like she kind of is. She's going up against Bayley and Sasha.
She is, but they still see the problem is their top babyface on that brand is so bad at being a babyface right now, which is the Queen.
Oh, Charlotte. Okay, yeah, that's right. Yeah, I guess Charlotte is the top babyface, but Charlotte
who acts like a heel.
Yeah, because she's a Flair, and so she's like constantly and perpetually booked as a tweener, and like face Charlotte Flair is still like 30% heel.
I mean, yeah, you have your choice of that, or you have Carmella beating MMA fighters. So,
oh my god, yeah.
And hot women giving fat guys hams. I mean,
and kisses, hams and kisses, Jeff.
And meat sweats. They made a meat sweats. Oh, okay. That's NXT UK. Not a lot to say. I enjoyed the show. I thought Ginny had her best offensive performance since coming into NXT UK, which was nice to see. It's nice to see what she can do because what they've been doing with her is mostly squash matches where she doesn't get to show a lot and she kind of cowards out, or feeding Toni Storm, who just kills her all the time.
Right. I liked this new person who they debuted too. She's got a good look. The French woman.
I loved that roll into the rowboat. I thought that was slick. That's what I really, and they also furthered the schism between Jazzy and Ginny.
Yeah, Jazzy got disgusted with the level of brutality. I think they should have stopped after the first one. Like, she should have done the first one, and then Ginny should have started protesting, because it's like having Jazzy pick up Ginny Amale, I think that's her name, or Emily.
Yes.
Yeah. A second time. It was already into the overkill territory, so then like the third time, I just think that was one beat too many.
Yeah, it went on a little long. It went on a little long.
Did.
It could have cut itself off. I liked the three-way promo with Kaylee Ray, Toni Storm, and Piper Niven.
Yeah,
quite a lot,
yeah.
especially the Piper and Kaylee Ray. Just continue. Her accent is just pure evil, which I absolutely love.
Right? Yeah.
And it looks like they're going to this dark Toni Storm thing.
Yeah, no. I think Kaylee Ray. Remember how Roderick Strong betrayed Pete Dunne during the tag team match against the Undisputed Era, and that's how he became the tag team champions?
Yeah.
I think that's what's going to happen here, is that at the end of the day, Toni Storm is going to help Kaylee Ray.
Ooh. I could go there. I think it's going to be one of those she saw an opportunity and she took it type things on Piper Niven. I think that's what it's going to be. I don't think they're not going to go full Kaylee Ray, but they're going to establish her as a heel to separate her from Piper. I
think they're getting realigned. I think we're going back to the whole Toni and Kaylee Ray are friends, and Kaylee Ray was Tony's mentor. And Tony was kind of like, that little promo was all like, I don't have any direction. I don't know who I can trust. Kaylee Ray was a friend. The fact that we've even gotten back to that, it's sort of like Tony's unlearning the lessons from her feud with Kaylee Ray, which makes me think, that leads to her long-term alignment with her.
I think you need another strong babyface to be involved in this. Then I guess you got to heat up Xia Brookside.
That would be actually a good vehicle to heat up.
Maybe Killer Kelly could go looking for another fight.
Yeah, right. No, we can finally get that Killer Kelly babyface push. Yeah, that's not coming.
Yeah.
Maybe no, but I think that your instincts are right. That if you're gonna get Xia Brookside as top babyface, you need to have Toni Storm clearly on the heel side of the ledger and not as like the upper heel either.
And they can redo that thing where they had the match together.
Yes,
except now it's
right.
I liked Tyler Bate and Noam Dar as a match, just as a match in a vacuum watching it, but I never bought for a second that Noam Dar was going to win that match.
Right. I think that the way
as hard as they tried to tell me on commentary that Noam Dar this, Noam Dar that, they haven't built him up as the guy that could beat Tyler Bate.
Devlin should have cost him the match. And then Dar is gloating about this victory, and the next week Tyler Bate destroys him in a minute and a half. Yeah.
I like Pretty Deadly. I think it's time to give them a manager and a bit of a push, even if it's at the expense of the Hunt. I think they've done their their time as geeks getting killed. I kind of like them. I do. I'm starting to turn on them. They're starting to become that mid-card team that I kind of go, maybe you give them a little more personality and they'll become interesting here.
Yeah, I thought they were going to get the win over Kenny Williams and Amir Jordan, because to me,
oh no, they're playing the long game.
They're playing the long game
for the turn.
No, they're playing the long game on the turn. I called the turn right from the get-go here. They're playing the long game on it. Oh, we need to go back and talk about Bray Wyatt and The Miz and Daniel Bryan. We didn't cover that in SmackDown.
We can do that. Yeah, well, I mean, there wasn't much to SmackDown to me other than, and the other thing I was going to bring up, I'll yield time to you. Sheamus, these promos are straight out of the Drew McIntyre school.
You just took my line. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
people are small.
The locker. It's also Bailey's thing. The locker room. Oh, the locker room. They're a bunch. Why is this such a popular thing with Vince? That's what I don't get. Why is he always kind of trashing his employees all the time on television? I don't get it.
It's got to be a persisting sense that the locker room doesn't necessarily love all of the decisions he makes. Remember, it wasn't that long ago that a bunch of them were trapped in Saudi Arabia.
I just think there's not enough alphas. There's not enough guys standing up to me and telling me to go F myself or whatever in this locker room. So I'm gonna needle these soft millennials until somebody comes up to me or whatever and says something. It's lame. It's about as lame as as Elias's Caitlyn Jenner line in his song, which I just thought
was unnecessary.
stupid.
Did not land super well. Why would you have that in? No need to put that in. Absolutely no need to put that in.
Look, I am not Mr. Sensitivity. Everybody knows that. I watched that. I went, that is just a line that's going to piss people off, and it deserves to piss people off. And if you just backed off from you laughing at it for a second to think about how that would play.
Yeah. So SmackDown and also the pay-per-view were a kind of disappointing follow-up to what I thought was a good SmackDown lead-in to the pay-per-view. Like, I like the two different horror stories kind of coming together, The Miz and Daniel Bryan overcoming their differences. There's lots of things to like inside of this storyline, but they have a cartoon mallet, Jeff. Like, a bunch of narrative stuff is moving through Bray's mallet. Now, if that mallet inside of it, if it was a trap door that had thumbtacks or something, and we were setting up a really brutal spot with the mallet, not that he was ever going to hit you over the head with the mallet, but the mallet had some sort of secret weapon inside of it, and so he'd pull it out, act like he's going to hit you with that, but there's nothing in there. There's something actually painful, like a spiked glove, coal miner's glove, one of those old style things. That's interesting to me. And then he can also stash stuff away back inside the trap door inside of the mallet. The threat of hitting
Daniel Bryan.
Yeah, go ahead.
Daniel Bryan was taken into the metaphorical version of hell, which apparently exists under the ring in WWE. Had his hair ripped off and never told us one thing about what was down there.
I have no idea what happened to me. I just woke up. I mean, you can hear Daniel Bryan sub-commenting that line as he's delivering that line on SmackDown. He gets that that's impenetrably stupid. And it's a real failure to tell. I've been on a crappy horror movie kick recently, like when I've been like editing stuff or just cleaning the house. So I guess part of the reason why I've been able to scan the Bray Wyatt Fiend stuff as it's horror movie storytelling. Like, the reason people are having a hard time with it as a wrestling plot is that really these are horror, like, plot arcs that are being ported into wrestling, which makes some sense with the Bray Wyatt Fiend character. It's what you can do with him. But yeah, the actual delivery here, and then The Miz coming out this week. I'm a changed man, but I'm still in this ridiculous leather jacket. I mean, if he had came out in a t-shirt and jeans, and like Bryan and The Miz for the first time in years, there's no like crazy bearded, long-haired Daniel Bryan, and The Miz is not Hollywood The Miz, but they're both two dudes in t-shirt and jeans. That's an image.
Daniel Bryan comes out in a button-down polo, clean cut, looking pretty good and built in that thing. Serious looking to fight. Here comes The Miz in a burgundy leather.
It looks like you remember the Cell?
With a headband.
Do you remember the Cell?
I don't watch crappy horror movies.
With Vincent D'Onofrio. That was not a crappy.
I remember it. Yeah, with her.
It was great, dude.
J-Lo.
Back in the day, all the graphic designing and the set designing in that movie, it was incredible.
I don't like horror movies, and Trisha hates me for
okay,
it,
well,
so
that's one more reason not to like you. But the point is, like his coat looks like something that Vincent D'Onofrio's character wears in the Cell.
It's like you're dressed as a clown, and you're coming down here to tell me you're serious. Shut up. It's like if I were Daniel Bryan, I'd look at him and go to the back, put on some knee pads over blue jeans, and we'll talk. Just I'm down here as a father.
And he also should have been out there with a weapon. Like, these guys need to realize that they're at a point here where Bray Wyatt, particularly The Fiend, who's exhibited the character trait of not being able to feel pain. You need a weapon.
Mrs. the guy in that Geico commercial making fun of horror movies. It's like I'm going to wear this outlandishly gawky costume to go hunt the evil bad guy. I think I'm going to go hide behind those chainsaws over there.
I guess the point in all of this is to say that it's not massive tweaks to take this from Shitsville to something that's actually fairly watchable, but they have had really bad instinctual choices, and they fail to capture the points where the protagonists need to feel serious. And, so then let's get to Baron Corbin and Dolph Ziggler. If they had been used as plot devices to start building some unity between Daniel Bryan and The Miz, okay, that's great. Inserting Baron Corbin into the main event picture over his ridiculous
makes it less serious.
It distracts from the story that you actually need to be telling. King Corbin is a goof character. Really, like the way King Corbin.
I'm a king, and my loyal subjects will come out here to worship me, and you will all bend the knee. It's like, are you kidding me?
Nobody knows why Dolph Ziggler's wearing that blue SmackDown hat. You know what I mean? Like, there's no it's his heel character, but even commentary's trying to parse together, why does he all of a sudden wear a blue SmackDown hat now that he's a heel?
So wait a second. Is the Fiend now terrorizing the mythical land of Sucktopia, where Baron Corbin reigns as a ruler and his loyal subjects love it? Like, oh my God, there's too many mythical worlds and dumbass stuff. It's just ridiculous.
Well, it makes sense. You got Bray Wyatt, who's kind of working a Pee Wee Herman character, and you have Baron Corbin, who's now the king of cartoons.
Oh my God. We're going to have to get like Globy.
Oh my God. Okay. I would turn the corner. If they had Jambi and Globy in Bray Wee's Playhouse, I would love that. Let's go back to TLC real quickly. So the Bray Wyatt entrance, I basically predicted that to a T, that he was going to come.
Yeah, take your victory lap.
Sure. The crowd didn't quite know what to make of the schism between the two. I think this is where Bray working an enhancement match against somebody during, the last few weeks here, like a no-namer, where he comes out and he's like, gives him a hug and he acts super nice, and then after the bell he goes all Waylon Mercy on him. I think that would have gotten the crowd better prepared for championship Bray Wyatt coming out as...
For the look of Miz beating up a guy in a cardigan sweater?
Yes, yeah, right. And he was like, no, don't hurt me, don't hurt me, don't hurt me. Like, I think you need to get over Bray's weird inverted relationship with pain. Also, you need to figure out what's the end game on that, and I do have my doubts that they have a coherent ending to this. But I think that having set up matches to get over when Bray's attacking, or when Miz is attacking Bray Wyatt, not the Fiend, but Bray Wyatt in the cardigan. This is not a good guy that he's attacking. I think there were a lot of people in the crowd who were not following along with the arc, and so it did leave the crowd very sort of confused. Also, I think that The Miz, the intensity in that match, this is the problem with The Miz. He is a great actor. He's great at delivering these promos, even the most ridiculous ones, but the matches do leave you a little cold.
Supersized for the holidays. We'll get to the AMA in just a second. My last thing on TLC, Kairi Sane. God bless her. She was obviously concussed at some point in this match. She is a great heel, though, in peril, yelling for Asuka, grabbing at Becky's knees, and I think at that point she was actually hurt. She was basically saying, don't put me through this table right now. But that was the match for me to watch. It was sloppy as it was. I thought Asuka and Kairi Sane did quite well in it for what they could do. But damn if they didn't take liberties with Kairi Sane on that one.
Yeah, I hope she got some hazard pay for that night of work.
So, we asked for questions. We asked for any kinds of questions. You gave us wrestling questions, which is fine. This mailbag does not open but once a year, so you all get chances to ask me anything. It's gone well before. We'll see if it goes well now.
I have not heard these questions except for one, so I'm excited to hear these for the very first time.
We're going to improve after the first one, I can guarantee you, because I think the first one is either a troll question or trying to get a plug in there. Username Cena Rules Roman Drools. What happened between you and the people of Wrestling Soup? Do you, spelled you, hate Wrestling Soup? Where is that other host? Why, spelled Y, hate Donald Trump?
Wrestling Soup loves our show.
Never...
They think we're great. They're always telling us how great we are. We have no problem with them because I'm getting DM'd by the guys in Wrestling Soup all the time, and they're like, "Hey, Chris, keep up the great work. Jeff's really great too." And I'm like, "Hey, that's really nice of you guys." And I think it's a great thing that Wrestling Soup does, plugging our show. And it's nice. It's nice to be nice when it's time to be nice.
Cutting through Chris's great sarcasm there. Wrestling Soup and us, we've never had any interaction.
No, but if you're gonna,
whatsoever.
plug them in some sort of like weird kind of reversal thing, I'm going to turn the tables on you, my friend.
I have no problem with anybody. The only other than people who try and destroy me regularly on the internet.
I've literally never talked to the guys. I wish them well, but I've never heard their product in any way, shape, or form.
The only people that really had a problem with me were a bunch of people over at the We Don't Know Wrestling types, and I never got that. I think it was just due to our affiliation with Voices of Wrestling, and I went on a couple shows that those guys were doing. And they got really mad at the host. They got really mad at me, but I knew one of the guys from the PWG line, and I said, "Be happy." I was always happy to do anybody else's podcast when I was trying to grow this thing, and just in general, because I like talking wrestling. I like talking with people. I like doing things like that. They had a real problem with that, but I never had a problem with anybody else. And then, you had guys like Frey who were like, "Oh, he's a WWE hater. He's just going to whine about the." It's like, okay, great. You guys don't like me. Don't listen. I got no problem with you. Been nothing but nice to people in person and online whenever they asked something of me. I've never rejected a request for the most part to be on somebody else's podcast. I've never trashed somebody else's podcast online to my knowledge. I've criticized people's opinions, but I've never said don't listen to these people.
I would never say don't listen to somebody's show. It's just like that's such a it's rare that you even get that out of me on like the don't worry about the government side. Like I think that's such, you could disagree with somebody's takes and still go like, yeah, but listen to different viewpoints, especially on something like wrestling. I think the best thing you can do for your own ability to see the product and maybe realize what you're not seeing about the product is to listen to alternate takes. So listen to the AEW tanky take. Listen to the WWE tanky take. Like,
what's the name of the Busted Open Radio or whatever, the one on Sirius? Go listen to them. They have an opinion too. They listen to Voices.
Yeah. The flagship has a different.
Listen to Dave.
They have a different opinion from us.
Dave Bruce and Todd Martin. I mean, everybody. There's a lot of good analysis out there. There's a lot of people trying to be good analysis and working their way through it. Find who you like and who entertains you mostly, and go listen to them. Whereas that other host, Rob McCarran, is currently married and living in the afterglow of quote unquote his Washington Nationals winning the World Series, even though he likes 20 different teams. Why hate Donald Trump? I mean, really?
Yeah, here, I'll just go short on this versus long. One, go and listen to Don't Worry About the Government if you want to hear, why do I think he should be impeached, which is different from why I don't like him. If we're saying why don't I like him, I just can't countenance anybody who mocks dead people as openly and as comfortably as he does. Like, if I knew somebody in my life who did that, if I had a friend who was over at my house and was just joking about maybe somebody's burning in hell, I'd be like, whoa, that's a lot. So, hate's like an active thing that I'd have to. Hate
means you have to care about somebody in some way,
yeah.
And I just don't.
Yeah, it's not. But to say it, I hate that behavior. Absolutely. He says and does actions that I don't countenance out of anybody that I keep in my own life, and I don't like those behaviors. But him himself, dude, I've never met the guy. I'm never going to meet the guy. I think his.
Don't know him well enough to hate him.
Yeah, no, but do I hate that his kids go to, for example, Mongolia and kill an exotic ram and need to get led there by a team of actual hunters from that country, and they set up the kill for him, and then he's one of these guys who's holding up this very rare animal that any 5-year-old could have killed given the same resources around them. Yeah, I hate that behavior, but it's not It's not even specific to Donald Trump. Like, I hated when that dentist went and killed that lion because it was a similar situation. That guy didn't hunt down the dentist. So to answer your question, the reason I don't like Donald Trump is that he does a lot of things, behaviors, not just like political actions. He just has a lot of personal, moral behaviors that I consider to be bankrupt.
Cody, your boy, gave us a few questions. I'll read them and I'll go first while you think about them. Who besides Seth Rollins would you put with CM Punk in a return match? If Ronda comes back, what's left for her to do besides the Becky rematch? And what's left for John Cena and The Undertaker to do at WrestleMania? I will take these while Chris thinks about his answers. Who besides Seth Rollins would you put with CM Punk in a return match? Daniel Bryan, first and foremost, seems to be a good idea. I wouldn't mind a younger NXT guy on the Mania card, something like a Johnny Gargano, I think would be a heck of a match with CM Punk. Adam Cole wouldn't be a bad match with CM Punk. Kevin Owens wouldn't be a bad match with CM Punk. I mean, you can do, and this is going to go into my Ronda answer. You can do anybody if you build it well enough and you get enough heat there. And CM Punk's going to bring heat. I just don't have as much faith in CM Punk's in-ring smoothness because he wasn't sloppy, but he was clunky at times. I'll say he was clunky, but
okay.
I'm not
so this kind of gets into my answer.
Wrestler.
For who we'll take them one at a time here, so I can keep them.
Someone who can carry
exactly. So I think it needs to be a brawler. I think you need to have someone like Tommaso Ciampa who can have a little bit of that outside brawling thing, maybe even Finn Balor. CM Punk can do most of the talking in that feud. Balor can do most of the working, but they can kind of brawl outside. I'd even like to see CM Punk come back and face bigger guys. Similar idea, using the equalizer. I'm with you, dude. The matches were a little clunky at the end of the run, so I think you're going to need some smoke and some mirrors and just Punk being more of a John Moxley type of character, the type of guy who might throw you onto the thumbtacks or that sort of thing, versus trying to do the Pepsi plunge off of the top ropes.
If Ronda comes back, what's left for her to do besides the Becky rematch? Again, you have any number of people you can build for Ronda Rousey if you do it right. I think Sasha Banks, Ronda Rousey would be a fine feud, even though they did that kind of as a squash on SmackDown once. Bayley, if you resurrected her, you could do that too because she's a good enough technician to carry Ronda. You could do Shayna Baszler versus Ronda Rousey in a wrestling match.
Answer.
I'm sure they'd be down for that. And there are people there that you can do this with. I think there's more that can happen with than just the Becky rematch. But yeah, Shayna Baszler Asuka wouldn't be the worst thing in the world.
Rhea Ripley and
armbar versus armbar.
Asuka would be cool. Rhea Ripley. I think eventually, she's going to be in position for that. Even people like Jazzy Gabbard. I think that Jazzy Gabbard can have a good match with Ronda Rousey.
Well, we're talking a one-off. If we're going to build to a mega match, I'm not putting Jazzy.
No, but I think
put
Rhea
Jazzy in there
Ripley and Shayna Baszler are actual good candidates for this.
Yeah, and any of the horsewomen you could do. I still would love a horsewomen versus some version of a horsewomen feud on the other side. Maybe take Shayna and Ronda and then bring in two people like Tessa Blanchard and Mercedes Martinez.
Another Charlotte feud will be good. I mean, Charlotte and Ronda were some good matches.
They were pretty good. I'm kind of done with watching Charlotte and Ronda.
But we're talking about Ronda coming back in 6 months to a year. That'll be some serious space. And Charlotte, you have to choose what you're doing with Ronda this time around. Are you going to go strong babyface or strong heel?
What's left for John Cena and Undertaker to do at WrestleMania? For Undertaker, retire. I'm kind of done, and he's kind of struggling.
He needs to just lose to Baron Corbin.
Oh, Jesus.
No, you know what I mean? It'll be great. It'll just be like when Baron Corbin beat Kurt Angle. It'll build up Baron Corbin really strong. I think you beat The Undertaker clean as a sheet to Baron Corbin at the next Mania.
John Cena, to me, I could see him being one of those people you put in with CM Punk at the top of a Mania card and just doing the promos where CM Punk has never headlined WrestleMania and Big Match John being a part-timer going around as still headlined WrestleMania and Punk hasn't. And those promos would be pretty good.
And you know what? If you did like a hardcore match, something like Cena isn't hardcore, this is the perfect way to smoke and mirrors those two guys. They can have a great promo war going into it. We can have a little bit of nostalgia for the pipe bomb and everything, and have like the pipe bomb revisited with CM Punk talking about John Cena. And then they're doing a whole bunch of gruesome looking bumps that are actually much easier on their bodies than a series of suplexes and top rope planches, etc.
Andrew Rich has written in AMA question for the STR boys. No shock that it's music related. I recently wrote an article for Voices of Wrestling. Yes, I did just slip in a plug.
This is ask us anything, not plug your shit. That's not what AMA means. It's not PYS.
I recently wrote an article for Voices of Wrestling about the downgrade in WWE's in-house music in 2019. Not just in terms of the quality, but also the lack of information and availability of these themes as well. It doesn't feel like WWE really cares about presenting music with as much importance as they used to. Do you see that changing in 2020, hiring a named composer, crafting more recognizable songs, officially releasing new themes online again, etc.? Or will WWE stay the course on this?
I hate to say it, but I think WWE stays the course on this, and it's one of the more alarming trends to me about wrestling. Not like alarming, oh my God, but troubling trends to me in wrestling right now. As you watch AEW and you watch WWE, and like the standard WWE rip is like it's just like super low, super growly. There's no defining 5 to 7 note melody that really sets you off. I mean, you have some contrarian examples like Shinsuke Nakamura's theme that has a melody that people can hum and really latch onto. But, look at like Travis Banks' theme song. Even like Pete Dunne's theme song is more memorable, but that's like, it's more of a drum beat merged with a guitar riff. And so like when you're humming the Pete Dunne theme song, what you're really humming is bum 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 bum, which is just the same note, and it's kind of like pairing with but you're actually kind of humming the drum beat if you really think about it, and just putting a little bit of a bass note into the kick drum. And that's kind of the problem. Even Seth Rollins' theme, I feel like kind of suffers from a bit of that generic, like it's percussive, but it's not melodic. And I think that's been a real problem for them. They don't use themes to set moods. They're so hung up on this idea that low chugging guitars over metal drums portrays the aura of badass, that they don't think about the idea that when you have everyone with that theme, that mood gets really muted, because it's like looking at a painting where the surface color is orange. Orange as an accent color, very strong. Having a very strong, chuggy, hard rock theme in between, kind of more tame themes and production themes like in the 90s, right? You'd have guys still coming out to generic-ass music, and then you'd have the star wrestlers coming out to something that's got like kind of a shreddy riff, like, Sting would have that kind of chugging, urgent-sounding riff that would contrast to the dude who just walked to the ring with a, kind of a lame, like, rock and roller sort of theme or something nondescript. You have a color change. The problem with WWE's production music right now is everything's coming out orange. And so I do think, to your point, getting a named composer into the mix would make a huge difference. But I worry that Vince and, to a lesser extent, Triple H don't really see the value in creating a new Jim Johnston type of person.
It's overhead.
Yeah.
It's overhead for them.
They don't like the idea of those persons becoming essential either. I think they like the disposability.
I'm going to be honest. I am more, or I was at least more supportive of CFO than most people, because I thought they were doing something rather clever. If you look at CFO's themes and the ones that they did, it's obvious they sat down with someone. Sometimes they would just build a bunch of things in a certain stylish way, like the the infamous story about the Glorious theme was originally going to be for Nakamura, and to me it was obvious they were trying to ape Queen / Freddie Mercury on that, and it just happened to fit with Bobby Roode even better. But it's obvious to me that they would go to talent and ask, who are people you like? And then they would try and do some sort of knockoff theme about that. Like, I mean, I really liked
Sasha Banks' theme is one of the better themes.
Bailey's theme wasn't too bad as a babyface. I really liked that a lot. I think Dana Brooks is pretty good if you can get to the second stanza, which nobody ever does, but it's pretty good. Asuka's theme is pure dread. I mean, a lot of the women's themes are pretty darn good.
I even like Shayna Baszler's theme, too.
I am convinced Shayna Baszler's theme was supposed to be Tessa Blanchard's.
Yeah, no, that theme's
because
cool.
Because of the horses in the beginning. It's pretty
cool because it's got the. I mean, well, that was also back when they thought that Shayna they were going to do the horsewoman angle with Jessamine and Ronda and everything. But I mean, that's a good example of the very heavy percussive metal riffing, that chugging sort of riffing, but also actually being accented with clear melodies. And it makes it stand
that's
out.
A problem.
Yeah, that's the real problem. It's all percussive.
You're exactly right because you get into the things like the Dubstep Cowboys when they were a tag team that was it was a bunch of nothing and noise. Blake and Murphy's
theme. It was lasers and then like LFO filters that were set at like triplets, but that's all percussive.
But you kind of get the same thing with Kaylee Ray's theme, even though I like the theme a lot. That it's very repetitive. It can be catchy, but I think you're right. There's not a lot of originality.
To be catchy, though. You know what I mean? I also don't. The whole thing with Kaylee Ray is her character is sort of built to be nondescript, but like that. The problem is like the Drew McIntyre themes and a lot of people's themes are being produced without much care for characterization or memorability. They're not writing these songs or these hooks to be hooks. They're trying to write a bed of music. And it's almost like you're soundtracking somebody walking to the ring rather than thinking about the idea that it's like the melodic motif of the character that makes us think of them. Like, I used to play, a bunch of video games as a kid, a lot of like fantasy video games. Chrono Trigger always stands out to me. Every one of those characters has their own theme. And so like whenever you'd have them join the party, the melodic theme would pop up for them and you'd hear it and it becomes a trigger for them. I think that's one of the big things that's missing. And then when you go over to AEW, I think the real opportunity missed here is WWE has been kind of creating a vacuum here in terms of catchy theme songs. And one way for AEW to really kind of stand out and kind of grab you through the TV is to have these like really hooky songs. And with the exception of Jericho's theme, Judas is great. Like that is a good song. Like that chorus is a catchy chorus. But with the exception of his theme, most of the AEW themes are completely unmemorable or borderline annoying, like SCU's theme.
I'll give WWE a little bit of credit for this. I think the available music, and I don't know who they have the deal with, but they'll sometimes hit on a theme song for an event or something that's really good. Like the one that sticks out to me was...
Give me the green light, because I'm ready to go.
Oh, God. I was thinking the first Mae Young Classic when they did Dorothy's Missile, and that is a good song. I love that song a lot. If I'm AEW, because they're on TNT... I'm trying to make a deal with Warner Media and trying to get Warner Records involved in this and get some real music. Because that's, to me, when I did Andrew's show a couple times when I'm talking about real songs and just the emotional connection.
NWA is way on the right track with this, with taking Dawkins Into the Fire, a lesser-known rock song, and you cook it and you make it into a hit. What they did with that, I mean, I got very interested in this just one day because it's like, man, it sounded so crisp the first time I heard it. I thought it was like something fresh from this year, but it was actually a pull from 1984. But they remastered it and they stereo spaced it out and they cleaned up like each individual track. And I think that's the instinct that has to happen here. So it's not like try to get Guns N' Roses Paradise City. No. You're going to spend way too much money on that. Find a lesser known band that just has a really, really cool riff. Like there's a band I like called Diamond Head. Like there are so many great, cool Diamond Head riffs. Find an old Diamond Head track, clean it up, make it sound crisp and ready to go for 2020, especially for like an arena. But find smaller, more obscure bands and use real music.
Yeah, it's kind of like what they did even with Kill Switch Engage with the Fire Burns for punk. I mean, it did so much for his
Randy
character.
Orton's theme. I think another good instinct. But yeah,
Bray's first theme.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I even like the remake too. But I mean, they were doing that for a while. This pool of undiscovered. I mean, if I'm AEW, I go to Warner. I go, who are your guys on the come? Who are your up and comers? And I would just take talent in there and go, listen to anything. If anything strikes you as good, make a deal, pay the royalties, pay everybody involved. But we don't have to break the bank on it, and it's a real song, and we could be onto something.
Yeah, and that will give you the other thing here. This is why I don't like having even just exclusively one production library or exclusively one production team. Different producers just have different ways of spinning the wheel. Some people do EQing one way, other people EQ things a completely different way. There are techniques that are lifted from the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, and they're done to taste. And I think when you have just one team, myself, I have a certain way I like to produce stuff, and I am biased towards that unless you go, no, I really explicitly want it mixed this way with these sensibilities. Stuff is going to come off the presses with that certain imprimatur that I would have or any one production person would have. Going to completely different production houses, stuff that's engineered in completely different studios, stuff that's recorded in completely different methods, that's how you're going to get that real different sonic color. And that's the other problem for like AEW and WWE. All the stuff sounds like it's all recorded in the same place. And so that ends up kind of washing over the characters to a certain extent as well. And it also makes the characters who aren't a victim of that. So like when Randy Orton comes out, his song still kind of like is jarring and striking because it's different from all the chuggy riffs.
Yeah, but I mean, and also Randy's just demeanor is just he's just lackadaisically walking down the ring, and the tone of the song fits his whole
oeuvre. I think it's
essence.
Yeah. I think that's the word.
I was going for that word. I was going for that word. I can't say it, so I suck at it.
Oeuvre.
I was gonna say oeuvre or whatever, but yeah, no, it fits his entire thing. So yeah, I think there has to be more I think there has to be more outreach or more cooperation. And I think somebody could do something about this, but I think for WWE, they like being everything in-house and they like having low overhead.
If there was ever anything I was going to do in the wrestling business, though, this would actually be the thing I'd want to be involved with. Maybe the writing and stuff, but honestly, I would love to just have a bit of a guiding hand in helping get the musical branding right for these characters in a much better way than it's currently being done.
I still think one of the best songs to come out of wrestling was TNA's theme for the Pope. I think, man, that was just, they hit the net. Get that
Dale
guy.
Oliver has some moments. I always liked his theme for Daniels and Kazarian, Bad Influence. I thought it's a simple theme. It's a simple little riff, but like that little drum beat hits and then like the little chuggy guitars come in. There's nothing to that song.
Bring back the Apple teas and everything.
I liked it though. Like Daniels would come out and he'd be moving, and like they had a very active hand in coming up with that theme, so you could see that they are very attached with the mood that it set, and like it just worked really well for them. And I also thought Bobby Roode's theme in TNA was really good. The instrumental version, not the one where they like added the Like, they didn't need to do that, but they could have just kept that as a straight theme.
Chris on our Patreon will do 20 minutes on the Gallus theme and the greatness of that.
Boom.
Bump, 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 womp, womp, bump, finally, from my boy Matt, aka Rafiki, does AEW equal TNA 2.0? Do they think they have a chance to succeed with ratings that we made fun of TNA for having?
I mean, there are moments when I am watching that show where I get distinct TNA vibes. It's the neon stuff. It's the substandard, to kind of pivot out of the music conversation, the substandard music. There's something about the presentation that is a little subpar. I mean, it's obviously, better shot and better lit than, especially when you look at like launch era NWA TNA, or even like 2005, 2006 second launch era to TNA. I mean, it looks obviously better than Ring of Honor. It looks close to on par or on par-ish with NXT, but there are moments with that. Some of the character choices, we've talked about Emi Sakura. I think she's a good talent, but I think her entrance and stuff kind of brings down the seriousness of the brand. I think even Brandy Rhodes' character is campy. And then the Dark Order stuff, as we discussed earlier here, also kind of moves into some of those campy impulses that TNA was very prone to. And I think the idea with AEW was it was going to be a more serious wrestling show where wins and losses mattered, and we're not going full sport per se, but thinking more about some of the eschewed conventions of wrestling that actually serve wrestling in good stead.
I'm going to say no, mostly because TNA's mistake was they went against the main roster, number one, with Hogan, in a time when Hogan wasn't going to effing matter.
I mean, Jericho's kind of not, he's not Hogan, obviously, but no. Jericho, I think, is a bad impulse. It was good to get him into the company. He should be an upper mid-card heel leading an upper mid-card faction. But I think there's a real problem with Jericho's title reign overstaying its welcome.
I sort of agree. Let me try and flesh this out a bit, and you may have to give me a little bit of space here. I view AEW and NXT a little bit more esoterically than some people. I viewed this as a fight to see what the future of television wrestling should be in many, many ways. I kind of agree with Chris a bit on the Jericho call. I understood it at the time. I just think they didn't have a great plan for moving on from Jericho. Because to me, I thought Adam Page, coming off that hot New Japan run, was the guy. I thought he was going to be their new next big star. And then while you're building him as a star, then you continue to build Kenny and the Young Bucks and even Cody as big time players in this. I think everybody came into AEW and underestimated the number of competing visions for wrestling that were involved behind the scenes between the executive vice presidents and the money. The money wanted Mid-South or ECW circa 95 to 96, 94, something like that. They wanted that kind of style of wrestling, a little bit more serious, a little bit more, violent, those types of things. The vice presidents did not all share that vision per se, and they were each given different fiefdoms for which to ply their trade. And to me, the only one who's really doing a great job of it right now is Cody. But they ran into this problem because I think they thought this was going to be easy because all we really have to do is take what people love about New Japan and Pro Wrestling Guerrilla and just get the best wrestlers we can get and put on great matches week after week after week. and then we'll be the best wrestling federation, once we hit the ground running. And you needed more. And they looked around and they said, okay, what do we have to do that's actual professional wrestling right now? And they went to instincts on what they grew up with rather than history. And their instincts were they grew up on WWE. So they're doing a lot of what WWE kind of does, in my opinion, other than Cody, who grew up hero worshiping his father. And he's doing a lot of what his dad did. And it was one of those things where I think there was a lot of short-sightedness on their part that they were going to have all these cool acts from all around the world. You'll notice that the OWE guys aren't there that much anymore. And we were thinking they were going to be the future of this company, the guys from China. They're thinking we're going to bring in all these styles and all these athletic people, and then that'll be good enough. And we'll just do Pro Wrestling Guerrilla every week. Because I think some of the people that were giving them advice were like, yep, that's a hot product. You should do that every week. And then they realize we need some depth to it. And they can't find the depth just yet. They're looking for it.
And I think if you want to get people back into Wednesday Night Wars, Monday Night Wars, circa the 1990s vibe, the way you launch AEW on TNT is you do an overarching angle that kind of threads together the show that is the NWO angle, but done in a narratively satisfying way. The problem with the NWO angle in the 90s, and the thing that a lot of people who lived through that back in the day felt was, okay, the NWO never got their comeuppance. It was a year-long arc. I want to see this. I would love to have seen the NWO angle actually have been resolved the right way with Sting at Starrcade in 97, right? What if you guys actually did this and fixed this cosmic wrong of WCW, something that's not exactly that, but actually tell a story parallel to that. And the other thing, the reason why the NWO stuff is useful and what was drawing eyes is that the NWO stuff did roll through the entirety of the show, and it gave you a reason to keep watching from segment to segment. Sometimes we get into these matches, and if you are not invested in the Emi Sakura match, it's going to be here for 10 minutes. You can come back to it in a bit. You could see what else is going on.
If I'm going to you as a lapsed fan or as someone who's never watched wrestling, and I'm saying from the moment they start, AEW is going to be the fresh new thing. Dude, you should watch these matches with Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks in New Japan. They're so awesome. Adam Page is awesome. Look at the Elite. They're awesome. They do all these awesome videos and stuff like that. And you turn on AEW and you're getting Private Party and the Dark Order and Joey Janela. No offense to any of those guys. You haven't told anybody who the stars of this promotion are from day one.
If I'm a WWE fan and I see Private Party, I think that they're a knockoff of the Street Profits because I haven't seen Private Party before, but I have seen the Street Profits for the last 2 years.
Yeah, and I'm going, okay, what are they doing with Moxley? Well, they're kind of keeping him off TV here and there, and he's getting a win here and there, but he's not doing a lot.
If I was upset about how Dean Ambrose was handled in WWE, and that was going to be the sell to me to watch AEW, Moxley, in my opinion, at this point is not heavily enough involved in the show that I would care.
Yeah. Who is the star of AEW right now?
I would say Chris Jericho.
I would say either Jericho or Cody Rhodes.
Yeah, Jericho or Cody, but Cody's not able to challenge for the title, so he feels like he's in the middle of the card, and Jericho feels like the strongest entity on that show.
Right. Yeah, I mean, and that's all you have. And who were you telling your friends that the stars were? Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks. Do they feel like stars right now? I get their concerns about pushing management. I get it. But your selling point and what you presented have a chasm there. So that to me is the main issue. I don't think they're TNA 2.0. I think they have better management than TNA ever did.
They have certain TNA match impulses, though. Like they have instincts that can be very TNA.
They feel like just another wrestling show, which is all TNA felt.
Well,
like.
Also some of those matches used to have a distinct "get your shit in" vibe. And that is definitely how I feel sometimes on AEW, as though if we just get our shit in, then that will actually turn the corner on this match and the way people are scanning this match.
Mm-hmm. No, I would agree. I'm the jam band aspect that we've talked about is strong on there too, where it's just everybody wants to do everything in every match, and it's just, it's a bit much. Build stars, build TV stars. You do that through promos and through
not enough talking. I could actually use a little bit more storytelling, like in terms of interviews and backstage segments and stuff, and a little bit less long 10+ minute, 15+ minute matches.
Well, we've done enough talking. This will be a supersized episode should any of you be traveling. We thank you for taking us along on your travels. Hope you have whatever happy holiday you choose to pursue next week. Chris, you traveling or are you staying around? Or are you going to the
I'm house, traveling up to my parents who live in like North Plano, like on the town line of Frisco. So I'll go. I'm heading out to Scottsdale tomorrow through Saturday. So if we do an episode next week, it'll probably be a little bit later than the normal time. But we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens next week.
Enjoy your family. Enjoy your friends. Thank you for being with us throughout this year. I am most appreciative of it. I think I speak for Chris that he is too. And we will probably see you next week, but if we don't, we happen to miss an episode, we'll see you in 2020.
Bye.
I'd say the best part about editing is looking out and seeing the smile on children's faces. Christopher Novembrino.
Oh yes, I think so much has been lost in modern editing. I look back to the real pioneers of editing from the 60s and 70s, back when people had to edit with their hands. And it's something that's lost in the craft today.
Yeah, I'm calling in because you say you've edited hundreds of these shows, but they're all kind of lousy still, so what's up with that? Are you an idiot?
Caller, hey, stop talking for a second. Are you listening up? I'm not the idiot, you're the idiot.
I disagree, I think you are.
All I did was get one little end of one sound wave wrong, and it didn't line up with the other thing, and then everyone's telling me I'm not any good at this.